Welcome, everybody, to an all-new episode of the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. I am Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us, talk about everything going on in the world of combat sports. It is, of course, a great weekend. We're coming up on Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial start of summer. So we thought instead of focusing on stuff we got going on right now, let's look at what's coming up all summer, because we got a loaded schedule in combat sports. We got PFL semis and finals. We got BKFC cards week after week. We got stuff coming up with Lights Out Extreme Fighting as well. Plenty of things going on throughout the summer. Plenty of great fights we are looking forward to. So we thought, let's preview some of those with you on this episode as we have a little time off between cards. We got some great guests coming up to do just that. Coming up in just a second, we're going to talk to Chris Lights Out Lytle, the BKFC broadcaster, who's going to be a very busy man this summer. We'll talk to him about everything going on. Later on, we're going to be talking to, of course, the middleweight champion of the BKFC, Dave Redneck Mundell, who's going to get a title defense coming up in a few weeks for the first time in a while. He's been waiting for it. He's been calling for some people. Finally, he's going to get a chance to get back in there in the squared circle. We know he's been training hard if you watch his social media. We'll catch up later on with Lights Out finder and owner Shawne Merriman to talk about the last few cars they've had for Lights Out and what they have up their sleeves coming up this summer for the organization. And then later on, we'll talk with PFL broadcaster Jonathan Coachman, the coach, who's going to come on and talk about the first rounds that we had of the 2025 tournaments for the PFL and preview the semifinals that we have coming up throughout June as we get ready for a great summer of action from them as well. And then we'll give our own little takes on some of the fights we have coming up in both the BKFC and PFL. But there's so much going on. Let's get right into it and talk to our man, Chris Lights Out Lytle, before he's traveling the U.S. and the globe calling all these fights. It was a great fight, a great performance by Dyer. You know, we hadn't seen a lot of him over the last couple of years besides those no contests and then the one win over Albrecht. We'll see what we see next to him. I heard him talking with Brian Socha saying he's going to take a couple months off, and then he'll defend it. But, you know, the one that everyone would, of course, want to see is him and Warren for the third time after that no contest in their rematch. He doesn't seem too keen on that one. Seems like he wants to make him wait. Claims that Warren made him wait, and his team was, avoiding getting a third fight with him right away, so he wants to do the same back. I talked to Jared on our last episode. He doesn't believe that happened at all, and, he's gearing up for the rematch. But we'll see. What do you think of, now, of course, we've had the history with these guys, and now it seems like we're getting some bad blood, and we really need to see this fight happen a third time.
Look, as soon as BKFC wants it to happen, it's going to happen. As the champ or even as the contender, you're not really deciding when and where the fight happens. That's up to them. So if they're going to tell him when to fight, he's going to have to say, okay. That's the bottom line. So everybody wants to see it. That's going to happen quick, I believe. So they want to push a lot of our entertaining fights. I think that's a highly entertaining fight. I think a lot of people are going to want to see it. So if the public wants it, it's going to happen.
Well, speaking of fights that people have wanted to see, but unfortunately we can't get one guy to sign, that has been, of course, Dave Mundell and Mike Perry for the longest time. The Redneck has been chasing him down. You see him talking to him at events where they're both at. It just seems like Perry doesn't want to fight him. In fact, Perry was in Dyer's DMs before he won that fight, allegedly saying that he'd love to fight him. So we'll see, what happens if that comes to fruition. But Mundell does get another title fight here, opening up things in Albuquerque again against, Albuquerque's own Donald Sanchez. He's been calling for that title shot. He finally gets it, and the Redneck is coming to his territory to fight him to start off June.
That will be very interesting because, Mundell's been one of our best guys, definitely pound for pound, right up there. But, Sanchez, he looks like he's got so much experience, and he's finally understanding the sport more. He just keeps getting better and better. His last 3 fights, he's looking like a different fighter. So that's what makes that intriguing. He had a high-level fighter, higher level and more experience than Mundell. However, this is Mundell's world. He's had way more bare-knuckle fights. Is Sanchez to that level at this point? That's what makes this intriguing. We're going to find out.
And then, we got a fight after that the next week at Mohegan Sun up in Connecticut. Good heavyweight battle, but, no disrespect to those guys. We got so many fights coming up in these next couple months that we have to hit. I got to skip that one and go right to you. Down south, Texas, the first time the BKFC will be there with BKFC 76. And we get a rematch at the lightweight division. We were, waiting to see what was going to happen with this belt. There are multiple guys calling for a shot at Tenaglia, even from different weight divisions, going up and down. They kind of wanted to meet in the middle and fight this guy for the title. But the first one who gets the crack at him is the guy who had the last crack at him, and that is Tony Soto getting a rematch in what was the fight of the year.
I don't see how we couldn't redo this fight. One of the best fights I've been to live. Like I said many times, it looked like a Rocky movie. They were both drained at the end. They were landing so many shots. There was knockdowns. Somebody got up off the canvas to win. It's my favorite thing. And I couldn't believe, Tenaglia didn't get knocked down multiple times. He got hit to the body. He was almost down. He didn't go down. That saved him. What an incredible fight. I really think that was next level. I can't wait to see it again. We got Orlovsky coming. We got Jessica Ai coming. I mean, this is going to be a big deal to be in Texas from now on.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, of course, Ai and Agapova both making their BKFC debuts and battling each other. That should be great. But Andrei Arlovsky, the pit bull, I know, it's had a tough run in the UFC, recently, but if there's anybody who's watched MMA over the last 20 years, they know the Pitbull. I mean, I was ringside watching him and Fedor duke it out for affliction fights back there in California years ago. I can't wait to see what he does in the BKFC, taking off the gloves, getting rid of the ground action, just him standing there trading with a guy like Dos Santos, who just took out another former UFC heavyweight in Olynyk.
Well, here's the thing with Orlovsky. He's really proven to me when he's able to do what he needs to do in bare knuckle, hit and not get hit. When he's able to do that, he's phenomenal. If he gets in and starts trading punches, he's going to have problems, especially in bare knuckle. But, man, I've seen him. He looks big. He looks strong. He looks athletic. If he just really sticks to his technical boxing and tries to be evasive, be elusive, and really focus on his defense, he's going to dominate.
And you're going to see another guy like that the following week who's, game plan is usually hit and not get hit, a lot of head movement, a lot of getting out of the way, and that is Conor Tierney defending that UK belt that he has over there in Birmingham against Danny Christie, who, of course, is coming off the loss to Mundell. But, if you're not from Shift, because his only two losses are Mundell and Warren, so if you're not Shift Combat, he's beating everybody else. Can he do it to Conor Tierney?
I mean, it's a different style of fight. So if he can apply that pressure, if he can land some hard shots, we know that's possible. He just has to land those powerful shots. Tierney is not the same kind of guy. He is not going to come out and try and overpower Christie. So styles make matchups because A beats B doesn't mean B beats C. Fight math doesn't work out. It just styles make matchups, and that's what we're going to find out.
And, of course, having two great fighters from the UK facing off against each other is always going to get that crowd hyped. I mean, you've been there for these fights over there before. How excited are you to get a matchup like that of hometown guys? It's great enough when you get one of those guys in there and you kind of have the whole arena, I'm sure, there for them. But when you get two, you're going to have divided, loyalties. You're going to have people going back and forth. You might get many fights in the stands as you are in that squared circle.
What people don't realize is, my first bare knuckle fight was in England. It was before it was legal here in the United States at all. They have some very passionate fans, and they got like those soccer hooligans. They're just a different level of intensity that we're not really used to having here sometimes. So that could be very intense. And there's a lot of national pride, or not nationals, right, but like their little province. There's a lot of pride going on. There's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if there's multiple fights, like you said, in the crowd.
Right. If you think the fans get rough enough between like New York and Philly or New York and Boston in the U.S., Birmingham and Liverpool is a lot worse. So I can't wait to see what guys like that are going to be doing as they support their guys on that great fight card. And then take a week off. Luckily, they give you one there. You got everything going in June. Get 1 week off for July 4th, and then right back at it in Florida, where we finally see the return of Boumaye Adams, but not taking a cakewalk fight here, trying to get back in the heavyweight mix, going against the hottest guy in the promotion, Leonardo Perdomo, who's just rolled through everybody, hasn't even made it through a first round in the heavyweight division.
And that's why I really wanted to see this fight. I've been begging for it for a while because Adams is so good, especially early. Sometimes he fades, he gets tired. We haven't seen Perdomo go past round. I think Adams could be the guy who can make him go past round, and we'll see what he has. Maybe Perdomo can do that for 5 rounds, and maybe he can't. We have no idea. We need to find out if there's any holes in his game, if he has any chinks in that armor. I think Adams is the guy to do it.
Well, Chris Lytle, thank you for taking time to talk to us, and take all the time you can with your family Memorial Day weekend, because you're not getting to see them much the rest of the summer. We can't wait to talk to you again about these great fights that we have coming up for the BKFC this summer throughout 2025.
Hey, man, I don't know what we're doing, but every time we just keep putting on better and better fights. I feel like a fool. I keep saying this is the best card we've ever had, but it keeps happening. It's going to keep happening all summer. I'll tell it many times. This is going to be an amazing year for us. I think 2025 is the year we take over.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid as we start to look forward to some of these great fights we have coming up over the summer, especially starting in June. A loaded schedule every week, and one of the guys who kicks that off, headlining, of course, in Albuquerque, is the champion, Dave Mundell, who joins us now. Redneck, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. We see you there training, getting ready, working hard. We've seen a lot of that over your Instagram for a while now because you've been waiting for a fight. What have you been up to since the last title defense after we talked to you over in Spain? Has it just been all, working out, sharpening the skills in the gym? What's been going on? Why have they kept you out so long?
Well, let's take it back a little bit. I'm the blue-collar cowboy. I usually have a full-time job, and then I come into training after work. But up in this past couple weeks, I've actually been able to quit working and just really focus on training. So I've been doing it twice a day. So just preparation is key, and it's also why you guys see so much hard work out of me all the time, never stopping.
Never stopping, always out there, repping the BKFC, doing a great job defending your title over and over again. And you're going to be doing that again in Albuquerque against Donald Sanchez. He's been calling for that for a while, and this is going to be happening now, going to his home turf. We'll talk about that fight in just a minute. First, the fight that you've been calling for a long time, but no matter what you do, cannot seem to get to happen, is, of course, Mike Perry. And, we saw you guys recently at a card talking about it. He just doesn't want to make it happen. We've seen him getting into, Josh D-Day Dyer's DMs before his fight against Richmond, talking about wanting to fight him. We saw your reaction to that, where, again, talking about how he's ducking you. You've been calling for this guy. He can't happen. What is the problem with Mike Perry that he does not want to fight you? He keeps bringing up this fight you guys had. It's almost a decade ago at this point.
It's as simple as I'll ruin his career. Everyone deems him to be this tough guy, and if he got in there with me, man, I'm gonna put him to sleep, and that's the only outcome that's possible. And he knows that. That's why he's just gonna avoid me at all costs.
How frustrating has it been for you that you haven't made this fight happen? I mean, when you look at the rankings, he's number 2. You're the champion. That should be what they make happen. Do you have any problem with the BKFC not pushing him more? Is it all just him, you think, and there's just no getting through to him? Who's most to blame for this fight not happening?
I honestly don't know, and I really just don't care. People are starting to see that it's not me who's running from him; it's him running from me. So at the end of the day, as long as people understand that, it's cool. He can have that little fake ass King of Violence belt. It don't mean shit. I'm the champ. I'm pound for pound number 1, and he knows this, and so does everyone else. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
You are the champ. You are number 1 pound for pound. And, when we've seen a lot of these other champs whether it be champs calling them out or other fighters calling them out. That's one thing that you don't seem to get a lot of in this division or in the BKFC in general. Do you just think that people know that what's going to happen when they get in there? Is it just that they're fearful of you? Why does no one want to take a shot at the champ? It seems like everybody wants to fight each other. In other divisions, no one wants to take a shot at you.
I'd like to blow my own head up there a little bit and say it's because I'm a dangerous fight. People understand that there's levels to this sport, and I'm on top for a reason. So we have a lot of the lower level guys calling me out because they're just trying to make noise. And at the end of the day, also that's what they're supposed to do. The people that are ready for a title shot, who have the big enough records and enough experience, they don't want nothing to do because they already feel they know the outcome of the fight. BKFC is doing a pretty good job, though, of keeping me somewhat active, with everyone saying they want to fight and then they really don't sign the contract. So I'm just excited to have this one coming up, and we'll go from there.
Well, this one is one of the few guys who has been calling out for you, and that's Donald Sanchez now. He fights you. He's been having a good run with the BKFC. All the fights in Albuquerque, and now you're the champ. Usually you want to take the belt, you got to go to the champ. You're going to Albuquerque, though. You're going to his home territory where all his fights have been for the BKFC.
Yeah, he's the stoop kid. He don't want to leave the stoop. That's all right. He likes to fight up there because he thinks he's got an advantage because everyone knows that New Mexico has a little bit of an elevation, so less oxygen in the air. But as a great fighter, I understand this, and I'm doing the correct preparation in order to be able to go out there and do what I'm supposed to do. So I don't mind going into his backyard, beating him up in front of all his fans, because after everyone sees the type of work that I'm capable of, they're just going to start following me.
Well, we can't wait for that fight. I mean, if you look at what you guys have been doing the last couple of fights, though, I mean, obviously that works out for him fighting up there because he's gotten a decision in 3 of the 5 fights. So, he's going to try to go the distance, it seems like, while you have come in there and just run through guys. You've been finishing them off.
Yeah,
so
he goes to the decisions. I like to finish people. Like I said, we are not the same. We're cut from different cloths. He's tough. And again, that is not necessarily a compliment. That means he's used to getting beat up. This is something we throw around a lot. People want to say that I have a light chin and shit like that, whatever. But you gotta try to find me in order to put me down. And I just don't see him being capable. He's slow, and he's just way out of his league.
Well, when of course, you're gonna in your mind think that this is done. You got him. That he's not on your level. So we'll go with when you win this fight, not if. Is there anybody else that you're looking at? Anybody that you think deserves that shot next? Are we just done with Perry? When he finally mans up, you'll fight him.
Listen,
and we're looking at other people.
Perry is always welcome to come take this ass whooping like a man. Outside of that, I got to talk to my teammate, Jared Warren, and see if he'll let me step up into his class and try to take that 85-pound belt if he ain't going to make another run at it. Maybe I can be champ. I know BKFC said they were done letting people bounce around, but at the same time, if I'm only fighting once a year and that's all I can do for 75, why not just fight twice a year, once at 75, once at 85? I like the sounds of that. I get to eat some holiday dinners and stuff, So as far as a particular person,
and it seems like Dyer's trying to avoid Warren again. We saw him talking to Brian Soches after he won that title, saying that he's going to make him wait because he claims that Jared and your team made him wait. That they didn't give him that third fight that he wanted right away. So it seems like he's going to try to avoid him. We'll see if you can get in there. What's it been like? Obviously you guys have one of the best teams in BKFC. I mean, we just keep getting titles. Of course, Jared unfortunately lost his, but Jessica just won. You got Papa G climbing up the ranks as well. How important is it working with that gym? Iron sharpens iron. The best gym in the BKFC by hands down.
Yeah. Listen, we all have the same work ethic, and we sit there and we grind it out. So at the end of the day, this is just the team to be with. If you want to be on top, you know where to be.
Well, the Redneck, Dave Mundell, thanks so much for joining us, the champ. We're looking forward to your next title defense, June 6th out there in Albuquerque against Donald Sanchez. Appreciate your time, my man.
No problem, brother. I appreciate you guys having me on.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Met stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm gonna put it on Vinny. I'm gonna put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. They fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. It's going to be a great summer for the BKFC, as we talked about, of course, earlier with our man Chris Lytle and Dave Mundell, who we will see get in the squared circle again coming up next month. Why don't we look at some of the great fights we have going on through June and July? It is going to be action-packed, especially June. Almost every week you got some great cards. Let's touch base on these right now, and we can, of course, get deeper into them and all the cards, each fight on most of these cards as we get closer to the dates. But, as we just said, the man we just talked to, Dave Redneck Mundell, of course, going to be defending his title once again, BKFC 75, June 6th in Albuquerque. It's going to be an awesome fight, as it always is when he's there, fighting Donald Sanchez, 4-1 in the BKFC. Of course, Sanchez's last fight was a win over Aiken in Albuquerque in February. Most of his fights have been out there. He's the hometown guy. Every one of his fights out in the ABQ. So now he gets that chance again. Even though he is going to be fighting for the title, he brings the champ to his area. He's not bringing it to where Mundell is from. He's not bringing it down to Florida. He has to go fight him in his hometown, and we will see if he can use that crowd to his advantage, because he's going to be fighting a guy that has an advantage over seemingly everybody. He's fought 9-1, Dave Mundell, throughout his career in the BKFC, of course, coming off that great title defense in Spain over Danny Christie last October. Has been waiting for another fight since. All the training videos he's been putting out on Instagram, getting ready for a fight at any time, of course, as he always is, but hasn't got that one, especially has not got the one that he's been calling for with Mike Perry, as we talked to him about, the guy who's been ducking him in his mind for a long time. But he had just been on a tear since winning this belt, and we'll see if he can hold on to it once again out there in hostile territory. Then coming up after that, you have that heavyweight fight at Mohegan Sun, June 14th, the next week, between Porter and Kleckler. Decent enough fight, but we're going to move on to some of the higher ones because we got limited time here before we have to move on and talk about some of the other great fights we have coming up this summer in these other organizations. Let's go to Tejas, Texas, down there, the first time the next week that the BKFC will be down in the big state, and that is going to be between Tenaglia and Soto, the rematch for these guys for that lightweight title. Of course, we talked about that Spain card there with Dave Mundell. We last saw him fight there, as we did also see Tony Soto and Tenaglia. Soto 6-1 in the BKFC. His only loss was that title defeat against Tenaglia in a majority decision, going all 5 rounds with the champ. So now they get to rematch. It was such a good fight. We're going to see it happen again between those two guys. We're looking forward to that one. Hopefully he can live up to the first one and be just as good, if not better. And we'll see if it is the same type of result as we saw the first time in Spain, now that we bring it back here to the U.S. Also coming up this summer, just a few weeks after that, just 1 week after that, is another card, this time back overseas in Birmingham, BKFC 77. We're going to have another title on the line as Connor Tierney puts his UK belt up against Danny Christie. That one going to be out there June 28th in Birmingham. It is going to be a battle between two guys who have made some big names for themselves over in Europe, but of course also fought here and have fought for, some of the best fighters in the BKFC. Christie, of course, is 5-2 in his BKFC record. Those only two losses coming to Dave Mundell, who he last fought in that Spain card that we just talked about a couple minutes ago, and his other loss to Jared Warren. So pretty much, unless you are a member of Shift Combat, he has beaten you in the BKFC. He's lost to the two guys from Shift. Otherwise, he's beaten everybody else, seeing if he can continue that streak against Connor Tierney. Tierney just took this title last August over there in the UK. Of course, had some struggles before that. Looked like he was going to be an up-and-comer in the BKFC, fighting for titles, taking things over as an 8-2 bare-knuckle record, but lost to Lindsay over there in the UK back in March of 2023. Took some time off to kind of reevaluate himself, get himself back to where he wanted to be training and, mentally focused, and looked great in his last fight to take that vacant UK belt. So now we'll see if he can hold on to it in his first title defense against Danny Christie. And speaking about belts, later on this summer, July 12th, BKFC 78. That's right. They took a couple weeks off took a week off for July 4th. You had back-to-back weeks in June. Then they said, all right, let's give a little rest for the nation's holiday here for the birthday of the U.S. And then they're right back at it the week after, July 12th, in Hollywood, Florida. BKFC 78, headlined by some big boys. And that is the former title holder and Arnold Adams fighting against Leonardo Perdomo. Of course, Boumaye Adams is 7-3 in the BKFC, was the former heavyweight champion. Just lost his last fight against Mick Terrell in 2023, December 23, out there in Utah to give the belt to Terrell. After, of course, he had lost to Belcher, who had then abdicated the belt. So those guys fought for it then after that. And after a long wait, he then lost to Terrell. Has been on a long wait again. So can he rock the ring rust off and go against Leonardo Perdomo El Zombo, who has just been rolling through everybody 7-0 in the BKFC in this heavyweight division? No fight getting out of the first round. We will see. That's going to be a tough test for the former champ against the upper-comer in Perdomo. Big summer for the BKFC. Can't wait to watch all these fights with you here on the Combat Sports Report.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
does.
does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were two
who didn't even play good.
Quarterbacks in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
It's going to continue to be a busy summer in combat sports, and one of the, of course, organizations who's going to have a lot of action, especially in June, is the PFL as we get into the semifinals of the 2025 World Tournaments. And no better guy to talk about than the man who's been there for all the fights right down in Orlando in the first round. That is Jonathan Coachman. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Hope you enjoyed your time in Florida. You obviously got a great tan down there, but now we're going to send you all across the country. We're going to get things moving here with the PFL, going all different areas, Nashville, Wichita, Chicago, and then, of course, the final is going to be coming over to different places as well. So the PFL changes things up, moving things around for the semifinals here. I wanted to get your opinions, pick your brain on how you see these things going down. Let's touch on it, in the order it happened. First, April 3rd, you had the welterweights and the flyweights, who are going to be, of course, matching up first in the semifinals as well in Nashville, June 12th. Jason Jackson getting past Korshov. Thad Jean against Berkamov. They're matching up in this one in the semifinals, as is Logan Storley, who got past Luciano, and against Kokori, who's going to be going against Storley after getting past Bachar. What do you think of those first-round performances by those guys, and what are you thinking of these second-round matchups as we have Jackson versus Jean, Storley versus Kokori?
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you guys for your support. I feel like this year we've really changed a lot of people we brought in, the perception of the PFL, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I think we got off to a really good start in Orlando. So, Scott, thank you for that. And I really thought they set especially the welterweights, the Thad Jean and Jason Jackson, the way that they finished, the way that they faced off, the talking, and we have been sitting down with these fighters behind the scenes, particularly myself, because we need them to understand this is kind of a line in the sand type of year for the PFL. 5, 6, 7 years in, but we knew that if we wanted this to be a legitimate 12-month-a-year company, that the fighters have to buy in too, and they actually have. I sat down with Thad Jean 2 days ago for some future stuff that we are doing. This kid is exactly, Scott, who we should be putting all of our backing into. He's young, he's hungry, he looks great, he's got a following, and I think that MMA fans, when they look at certain fighters, the natural thing to do, because they know so much, is let's have a negative take on it. Instead of saying, man, we've got a dynamic matchup here. We've got two guys, one's an OG, one's a young gun. Both think they're still in their prime. I love Jason Jackson. He still believes he should be the guy to beat, the name to beat in this welterweight division. And then the flip side, you have Storley, who I think is going to win that matchup, and he's a wrestler. He's a guy that can take you down and also finish you. But the big storyline, Scotty, that we had starting with that first week, heading into the rest of the 4 weeks, was the finishes. And I felt like the fighters understood, if I finish, if I'm entertaining, then Coach and his crew, meaning myself, we can now push you to the moon. And so we had 21 finishes out of 32 fights. That's unheard of. That's a ridiculous percentage. And I think those guys in that group will do it again June 12th in Nashville, Tennessee.
And that should be a great tournament. I like Jackson, and I like Story, like you talked about, the veterans in there. That Gene's been great. He had a great performance, but you're not going to catch the vet when you just had the finish right in front of him. So we'll see if he can, have the same kind of performance against Jackson. But the ass-kicking machine is a tough dude to do that against. We'll see. You also have the featherweights. You have Jesus Pinedo versus Gabriel Braga after they got through Borch. Pinedo beat Borch, and Braga beat Dupras. And then Habibullah versus Kim Teon-Kyun. You had Teon-Kyun beat Nathan Kelly, and Movlid beat Kennedy there in their matchups in the first round. So now they'll face off against each other. That Pinedo-Braga matchup, that's going to be one that, you could definitely see in the finals if the brackets had worked out differently, I think.
You're absolutely right. And the one thing about this particular division is if we were sitting back, and the one thing that in my new role is I'm going to be completely candid, honest, 1,000%. And you look at certain fighters, you say, hey, may the best man win. But if we're being honest, and I've told Don and everybody that we have some incredible leaders, but I said, we need to buy into these young guys and still have the OGs at times. And you just said some names that we didn't expect them to win. But if I want to be behind certain, I want a guy who's 22 to 25, just getting into his prime, and keep them as a PFL name. But then if you're going to give me a matchup, that's Pinedo and Braga. And I talked to Pinedo before his matchup. He had some time off. A lot of these guys had some significant time off, so you never know if cage rush is going to be an issue, If they lose a step, if their quickness is not where it needs to be, Pinedo, Braga, not an issue. Mobley, everybody said, well, he's not the guy that had that knockout 4 years ago. Well, guess what? Maybe he still is. And so this is an opportunity in June and now in August for this particular weight class to really elevate, because once we get past August, now we start to think about next year's tournament. But also I tell people this whenever I get asked, this isn't just about the tournament, Scott. This is about, if you lose, how did you look so you can get another fight or two and still fight 3 times. That's been something that most people overlook. We've got names on these cards in June that just fought in April, because you got to have more than 2 or 4 fights. You got to have 8 to 10 fights. So to me, it's really cool to see these fighters understand I've got to go out there and look great, even if I lose to a former champion like Pinedo or to a guy like Braga.
Yeah, and you're going to have some great mix of up-and-comers versus veterans when you get into that women's flyweight tournament the following week, especially when you got Shakalova, who pulled that upset over Velasquez, going against Bishop, and then Carmouche. You know, Bishop and Carmouche, both longtime veterans. Carmouche going to go against Donna. So there you have kind of the experience and the longtime vets versus the youth in both those ones.
That's exactly what we want. I remember I was talking to Jenna Bishop, and what a personality she has. And also trying to add things to her game. And she's great friends with Angela Hill. And Hill was there to support her. And they said, listen, we understand we still have it. And then you got Liz Carmouche, who told me, I've got 2 bucket list finishes I still want to do before my career is over. She got one of them in the first round, and that was a liver knockout. She has something that off the top of my head right now that she's calling it. I can't remember what she's calling it, but it has something to do with being up against the cage. And she is actively trying, while winning, to make history for herself. I thought that's incredibly cool. That's a storyline. And then on the other side, my goodness, we didn't know that Vasquez was going to lose like that. And she looked devastated in the smart cage. That's what I love about the World Tournament, as opposed, and I was not completely on board with it at first, is that it's one and done. There is no safety net. Last year, if you lost in the first round, you still had an opportunity in your second fight, if you got the bonus points, to make it to the playoffs. This year, you're seeing that emotion when a fighter like a Juliana Vasquez loses, and all of a sudden she's like, wait a second, I'm at this point in my career. Where do I go from here? And that, to me, is the beauty of MMA and prize fighting, and the glory of it, and also the devastation of it, too.
And then that June 27th card, we're getting in some great action. You get the light heavyweights, the middleweights. I mean, you're getting matchups like in the middleweight tournament, Edwards versus Silveira, Rosta versus Jeffrey, some heavy hitters in that one. And then Phil Davis pulling the upset, going against Sullivan Cauley. That should be some great power, as well as Carlos Jr. versus Powell. You're going to get some great finishes in that card to finish up the semifinals for sure.
Very quickly, I know we got to get out of here, but there's some names I want people to focus on. Phil Davis, notoriously not a great puncher. He had a big-time knockout. Dalton from down in America's Top Team. This kid is somebody we're going to completely get behind. And Fabian Edwards, he said we should have started elbows a long time ago, and he had a great knockout of Impa as well. So all 3 nights, Nashville, Chicago, and also in Nashville, Wichita, and Chicago, they're going to be great nights, and I hope people come out. They watch them, because up close and personal right now, we've got a lot of momentum, and we want to keep that going.
The coach, Jonathan Coachman, is going to be there calling all the action, as he was for, of course, the first one out there in the semifinals, traveling the U.S. and letting us know what is happening with the PFL, sitting down, talking to the fighters, getting to know them even better. There was some great interviews that you mixed in with them throughout the broadcast. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to talking to you again as this tournament continues. Maybe we'll get you back before the finals, and we'll get some great matchups to go into Atlantic City and other areas of the U.S. as well.
Thank you.
Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. Oh, that's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. As we get ready to look towards summer, we got another great card coming up for Lights Out Extreme Fighting in June. We bring on Shawne Merriman, the founder and owner of Lights Out Extreme Fighting, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But Shawne, let's look back to some of the great cards you've had already this year and some of the great performances you've had from some of your fighters here with Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Let's go back first to LXF 22. Royce Butler and Corbin Allen, that third round 3 KO. The finish he got, a great battle by him. You had Tony Cortez with a great battle there in the first round, getting the finish with the Anaconda choke, and Luciano Ramos with a second round, of course, submission. Just a great job by these guys. Talk to us a little bit about Lights Out 22, especially Royce Butler, and what do you see from him and some of the other fighters that were on that card?
Yeah, man, it's been great. As you guys can tell, man, this thing is just getting bigger and better, more exciting. A lot of those guys you're talking about are just up and coming superstars, especially as they get seen, and that's the biggest thing for us, right? Because we have these guys with so much talent that just need the eyeballs for people to get out there, because that's what this game is about. You got some tremendous talent, especially in California, and more importantly in Southern California, where we've been having a lot of our fights. LXF 22 was big. LXF, we followed it again with LXF 23 that was massive, and then the big card we just had in Long Beach last Saturday, LXF 24.
Yeah, one of the guys that we just mentioned on that card, of course, Ramos. Then he got seen by you, got the win in the LXF 22, then came back in 23, got his chance at the champ against Jimenez. Didn't work out for him as Jimenez did what he needed to do. Got the unanimous decision. We talked to him after that fight. I mean, this is the guy, of course, who is still doing great things, a champion for you. How have you seen the first couple months of him, what he's done, and what are you expecting the big things from him in 2025?
Yeah, man. And speaking of Luciano Ramos, coming down, that's, Nick and Nate Diaz's camp out there. So he, come down and put on a show, and he's a vet too. I thought it was going to be much more lopsided than that, coming into this fight, looking at Arnold Jimenez. But you talk about Arnold Jimenez, he got a couple more fights in him before he really, really gets on the map. If he keeps on the streak that he's on right now, he's going to be out there, and who knows what might happen after that. And then we followed up with a massive, massive card after that again as well.
Another guy who was getting eyeballs on him at LXF 23, of course, was Vaughn Simmons at the co-main event, the heavyweight. We talked to him, the things that he has very early in his career, still 3-0, but good unanimous decision win against Beatrice there. What are you seeing from him and some of the other heavyweights? Of course, Blake Troop is your heavyweight champ right now, but a guy like Vaughn Simmons making a name for himself, and a guy that we'll touch on and that we just saw last week, Terrell Fortune. You got stacked heavyweight division seems coming through LXF right now at this period.
Big time, man. Even before talking about Simmons, Beatrice, it's funny. You look at him and he's not. If you see him in the street, he doesn't look like a fighter. And he gets in there. And this dude is so damn mobile. He's explosive. His movement, his lateral movement is great. He's a hell of a striker. He can take a lot of damage. And then talking about Simmons, man, coming up. I think he's up from San Diego. We got some heavyweights coming in there, and I don't know because I'm a big dude. We're getting more inquiries for heavyweights coming in there, but. I think just in general right now in the MMA landscape, there needs to be more heavyweights. And I said that, over and over again, it needs to be more heavyweights. I think your next heavyweight champ is going to be from the SEC, somebody that played at Alabama or Florida State. A lot of these guys are going to at some point start transitioning over from football, whether it's through college or through the pros. We will start getting more of those guys. But Beatrice, man, I know he took a loss because Simmons is a dog. But he put up a great show, and we're looking to have Simmons back on the card again. He came up from San Diego. We got the card June 14th. We'll talk about here in a minute in San Diego, Casino Palma. But we're just following up. We fight after fight. We're having so many fighters reach out right now from all over the country, man. We're struggling on just because this is the problem we're having, which is a good problem to have. You don't want to make the night too long, right? I mean, we can line up 15, 16, 17 fights if we want to and go from 4 p.m. to 10:30 at night. We can have a 6-hour, 7-hour show, which is a very, very long show. But we're trying to get the best of the best from there. And when you're starting to make the noise that we're making right now in this business, everybody's coming over and working with us.
Yeah, it used to be that obviously, college wrestlers were the ones who made the transition to MMA a lot for a long period of time. Then, like you said, it's been a lot of football players starting to do that now more and more. You saw that one heavyweight of the one season of The Ultimate Fighter where it was a lot of NFL guys like Matt Mitrione, guys like yourself who are finding it, who are loving it. And if it doesn't work out in football, you find another way to use that that skill, that set that you have gotten over the years. So we'll see how many more of those make that transition and the success they could have. One guy who is having plenty of success and just had it for you was Terrell Fortune, a guy who's been at the upper levels of MMA. Fighting for you after fighting in Bellator and the PFL, coming and fighting for Lights Out, headlining that card. A great dominating performance by him, making quick work of his opponent a couple weeks ago. And another guy, speaking of quick work, the Barbadian, he had a 15-second knockout in his last fight, and then apparently that wasn't quick enough. He had to have 8 seconds in this one. The guy just comes in and just overwhelms guys really quick.
Yeah, man, Tyrell Fortune, I spent a lot of time with him the night before the weigh-ins. I didn't realize how big that dude was in person, and I finally saw him. He's a wrestler by nature. He's great on the ground, but this dude got some heavy hands, and I can't wait for people to see that side of him because I had plenty of people around me that told me they sparred him. That his hands are heavy as hell. Jay Barbadian, man, let me tell you something. If he keeps on this streak, it's gonna be hard to keep him. He got about 3 or 4 more fights with us, I think, before he ended up where the UFC is really looking at him. He comes from a great gym and body shop in Long Beach, the McKees. AJ McKee and Antonio McKee, who I've trained with for a long time. He comes from a great team. So he keeps on the streak, man. He's gonna make a lot of noise in this industry.
And we also talked to Pepe Miller. Great job by him winning that amateur title. You always have the amateur fights on there, not just the pro ones. So you're giving everybody love at all different levels of their career. And but tell us now, you mentioned LXF 25. It's coming up in June. What do you have? Anything set for it already? Any matchups we can talk about, or just details about the card that we can get from you as we get ready for your next one?
Yeah, we got Curtis Melinda, former UFC and Bellator vet, and Renato Valente, former Bellator vet, this headline this thing. We also got Ashley Thiner. We finally got her back in the card. She's a fan favorite. She's a local favorite. We'll be at Casino Palma June 14th. Get your tickets at lightsoutaccept.com. Make sure you download Lights Out Sports TV. But we got a massive one coming. We're going to announce more of the card starting this week.
Looking forward to seeing that, especially Ashley. We talked to her before. It was supposed to be her last fight. The opponent fell out. Excited to see her get in there for you guys now. Shawne Merriman, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for talking a little Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Can't wait to see what is next for you guys this summer.
Thanks for having me.
Great stuff, Shawne. Thanks so much, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Thanks so much to Shawne Merriman for catching up with us and talking about Lights Out Extreme Fighting, letting us know about the cards that we saw these last couple months and what we have coming up in June. Looking forward to more big things from them. As you already heard some of the fights that he talked about coming through. We're waiting for Ashley Theiner to get in there and looking forward to seeing her first fight for them, Lights Out Extreme Fighting. But we have plenty of action coming up in June for the PFL, as we talked about earlier with Coach. Some great semifinal matchups. So let's touch on some of this and talk about some of the fights that we're going to see. As we have 3 cards going from 4 to 3. As this tournament gets smaller, so are the cards. First one going to be June 12th in Nashville. Going to be the welterweights and the featherweights. Of course, welterweights, you have Jason Jackson against Thad Jean and Logan Storley against Masayuki Kikuri. Now, if you're going to look at those two matchups, what those guys did in their first fights, I mean, I got to lean toward Jason Jackson. I know Thad Jean's coming in there hot. I know he's coming in there, with a lot of bravado, talking about how he's the best, downplaying his opponents, and had a great first-round KO in his opponent in his first fight. But now, you're not going to catch the guy that you're fighting against him. Jason Jackson is a veteran. He saw what you did, and I think he's going to be ready for him. We saw what he did in his first fight with that submission against Koreshkov, who was another one of the favorites in this tournament. I think that he takes the young buck down a notch here, and I think he's going to get the victory in that one. Logan Storley against Kikuri. Both these guys, having good fights in their first round. Logan Storley, of course, getting a unanimous decision. Kikuri with the second round TKO. I think this one's going to go against the vet in Storley. I think he knows that he's going to use that grappling, get, in some dirty boxing against the cage, get the takedowns when he can, and try to neutralize his opponent from getting the big strikes. I think we're going to end up with a Storley-Jackson matchup to finish that one off. Also on that card, you're going to have, of course, the featherweights. You're going to have Jesus Pinedo versus Gabriel Braga. You're going to have Habibullah versus Taeyeon Kim Taeyeon Kyon. So it is going to be a good matchup between those guys. You had a lot of finishes in the first round of that tournament. Pinedo with that first round TKO over Borge coming through like a wrecking ball. You had Braga with a submission in the first round against his opponent. Those guys matching up, that's a tough one. Going to be a battle of styles. I'm going to go with Pinedo, though. He looked like the champion that he was before. He had the long layup. I'm going with him to get the win over Braga. Then you had the submission by Taeyeon Kyon versus over Kelly, going against this decision over Habibullah against Kennedy. That one's a tougher one to pick. I'm going to go with the Russian. I think Movlid is going to kind of grind his opponent down, kind of neutralize his offense, try to grind out the win like he did in the first one in the split decision. I think he moves on, and we get Pinedo versus Habibullah there. Then the next week, you're going to have the start of 3 divisions in these cards. These last two are going to have 3. The June 20th, Friday, in Wichita. You have lightweights, you have bantamweights, and you're going to have the women's flyweights. Looking at that tournament quick, of course, the flyweights. In the women's division of that, you have Shakalakova versus Bishop. You have Carmouche versus Donna. All these were some great fights in the first round. Some big names. A surprise in Shakalova, who came in there, the Ukrainian, beating up on Velasquez. I think, though, Jenna Bishop is going to grind her down like she did that first one where she got the decision over 3 rounds over one Tommy. I think she's going to just take it to a, slow to a halt and try to get the decision win there. Carmouche versus Donna. Donna had a nice win in her first fight, but I think Carmouche, the gorilla, is going to be too much. She's going to overwhelm her. We're going to get an All-American Bishop versus Carmouche final in that one. The bantamweight for the men. You got Alves versus Hadley. Wetzel versus Gutierrez. Those are some great matchups, especially the 2 guys who came in there as late replacements to pull the upsets in Wetzel and Gutierrez. That one's going to be tougher. That's hard to pick off of just one fight seeing these guys. And I think that you're probably going to get more of Justin Wetzel just trying to neutralize his opponent. Ken Gutierrez, keep him off him and try to get the strikes from the outside. That's going to be the key in that one. I'm leaning towards Wetzel. Hadley, Alves. I think Alves is just a little bit stronger all around in that one. I think he beats Hadley, and we get an Alves-Wetzel final. Then for the lightweights there, you have Brent Primus, Alfie Davis, and Rabadanov versus J.J. Wilson. Going off what we saw early in this tournament, I think we get Primus just doing his thing, the longtime veteran, grinding down his opponent, trying to get the submission, if not going for the decision. And then I think we get Rabadanov getting the win over J.J. Wilson. He had a nice third-round TKO, but the stronger, more aggressive Rabadanov got the quick TKO. I think he gets the victory. You get a Primus Rabadanov final there. Then the middleweight tournament, Fabian Edwards pulling the upset over Kasanganay, going against Josh Silveira. This is going to be a striking battle. And if we're going to see a quick start from Edwards like we saw in his first fight, I think he gets the win. Dalton Rosta versus Aaron Jeffrey in that other matchup there. Should be probably a Rosta win on that one. Light heavyweight and middleweights. Ooh, I'm going to take Phil Davis to move on against Simeon Palo for some great striking battle there. And then the heavyweight tournament, I think Moldavsky gets upset by Romanov, and you have Popov continuing on to try to win another tournament, and that should be a great Russian battle there between the big boys. All that coming up in June for the PFL. We'll break them down further as we get into each week of these fight cards, but it should be some great battles for the PFL this summer. Thanks so much for joining us. Can't wait to talk to you again next week as we start to look forward into these cards that we have coming up in the coming weeks.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
Boston knew they were in trouble, Tom, but the most important thing is they fed off of their crowd, and in that third quarter, when Boston could have made a run, the Knicks just put that one last run together to put the game away.
So it was good to see them, to round this all together, good to see them finally put all the pieces in place to close out the series and say, yes, we are playing our best basketball, because that's what they're going to need against the Pacers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom, it's like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.